Question: what are you a fan of? Is it a movie, a book, a TV show, a music group, a sports team, or maybe something less conventional? I'm Regan.
And I'm Christian. We've spent over 10 years working in the customer service and entertainment industries. It's this experience which leads us to believe that everyone has a compelling, personal connection to the things that they are a fan of.
And we're here to uncover the secret fandoms of the Gulf Coast's VIPs. Join us as we talk with passionate fans about what they love. On this episode of Fantastic People,
going back to the breakups, I would say specifically her debut album, the Teardrops on My Guitar. That's just like I just want to be in my emotions whenever I'm listening to it. But I've had moments of sitting on my kitchen floor after just going through a breakup and just letting it all out and listening to that song. But I don't really listen to that album too much because it kind of does bring up those memories for me, but it's also healing at the same time.
On this episode of Fantastic People, we talk with Samantha Eckiss. Sam is the founder, owner, and operator of the Dough Doughnut shop and food truck, which serves delightful, handcrafted, vegan donuts, pastries, and treats along the Gulf Coast. Dough has been voted Best Donuts and Best King Cake by In Weekly's Best of the Coast Awards 3 years running. Having followed Sam and her truck for the last few years, we discovered that she is a super fan of the Queen of Pop, Taylor Swift. Sam revealed a lot about her love for Taylor, and specifically memories of how Taylor's debut album got her through many young breakups. This episode of Fantastic People is sponsored by Hellcat Hangar in Pensacola, Florida. Hellcat Hangar's venture is to build a thriving network of individuals and opportunities centered around the production arts and media. They strive to provide exceptional service as a production studio, valuable insight and education, and to enrich the overall industry across the Gulf Coast. They open their doors as a business, a venue, and as a community event center, but in all manners, their doors are open to cultivate a culture of togetherness. To join the Hellcat Hangar community or reserve a time for your event, you can find them online at hellcathangar.com or call 850-341-7403.
So Sam, tell me what it's like to be the Pensacola donut lady.
What it is like to be the Pensacola donut lady, it is an immense amount of pressure every single day.
So much responsibility.
So much responsibility on these shoulders and these hands. But I love it.
You're from here.
I'm born and raised here.
Born and raised.
Yes.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Pace High School, so I guess I was
Patriot.
born. Yeah.
All right, get out.
Patriot.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Get out.
Let's go.
Regan and I are both Aggies.
Oh,
We
yeah.
both went to Tate.
Yep.
I have no ill will against
No,
Pace.
I don't.
Yeah.
They're kind of the same to me, and I don't like to talk about the fact that I went to Tate. So
It comes up all the time on this podcast.
it does.
I feel like they are very similar.
They are.
Yeah.
Just opposite.
Were you
Counties.
across the field or across the street from a peanut field?
It's not quite that
it's not
bad.
quite like that.
But
Okay.
that is true for Pace. That
Yeah,
is
very
just
we
true.
had
being-
cows
Yeah.
and a very thriving ag department.
That is
Yes.
true. There is like a big field of cows, but literally, like at one side of the street. Have you ever been to Pace High School?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
a game or a graduation. I didn't go for a game.
Yeah.
I didn't
There's
go to a
like
game.
one side of the street, there's the school, and the other side it's just like farmland.
Yeah.
It definitely feels country, but oddly enough, the student body there doesn't seem that country to me. But I didn't go to school there, so
It's a wide variety.
Yeah, that's a good observation. They're a little less country.
Oh yes, certainly. I think Tate is more country than we don't. You know what? High school's
We're not here to
yeah,
analyze
it's super
that.
old ago. Whatever.
So high school.
Yeah. So went to Pace.
I did.
Born and raised in Pensacola.
Well, I was born in Pensacola and I grew up in Milton.
Milton's country though.
Milton is country.
Very much so.
Yeah. Love it.
You love it?
Oh man,
Oh, wow. I can't stand it. All our Milton listeners, I'm sorry. I don't spend much time over there.
I don't want to diss my hometown.
That's a fair point.
But that's true. I've met some people that grew up there that they think well of it.
I mean, downtown Milton is a like a beautiful one street town right on the river.
It is nice.
Like,
it is nice.
There's a lot to like there.
I do love Pensacola better.
Yeah.
Much more.
You're in East Hill now, right?
I am in East Hill.
See, that's the happening place to be, in my opinion.
It's thriving.
It is thriving.
Well, that and Cordova Park.
Yeah. Cordova Park's so expensive to buy a house that was built in the 70s. Goodness, I don't...
Yeah.
Like, I want to live there, but I just don't. I also don't want to send my kids to Washington.
We looked there. We almost bought there.
Yeah.
And then we realized we could get 3 times the size of a house for the same price.
Yeah.
Where are you?
We're in Beulah.
Oh, so far away.
Yeah. Also,
Almost Alabama.
Somewhere I never thought I would live or say, but it's true. I mean, I like being home and working from home, and so I want a bigger space to do that in.
We do have no yard. It's so tiny, but we can bike everywhere, and I don't really drive more than 10 minutes anywhere.
Yeah, see, that's the really appealing part to me.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah. My wife and I were in Atlanta last week, and we rented electric scooters. I have never done this. I was only there for a day. I went and picked her up, and we hung out in the city, and then came back. Right. And I've never done like Bird or Lime or those things before, so it was my first time. And all I could think was, this is a blast. And if I lived in East Hill, I would not own a car. I would just own a scooter.
Yep.
Yeah, we have electric bikes.
Oh, yeah. I'm jealous.
It's so much fun.
It's exciting.
So tell me about the donut truck. I have to know. Where did it come from? What's it been like watching it grow? The whole experience. It came
from an idea in my head. Traveling a lot, I feel like there's always really cute boutique donut shops wherever we go, like in New Orleans and particularly in San Diego. There was a place called the Donut Bar. And whenever I was there, I was just thinking, why don't we have this in Pensacola? It's so cute. The donuts are unique, taste amazing. So I thought, instead of waiting for somebody else to start it, I just decided I'm going to do that. And I had no idea how to make donuts. Never made one in my life. So I taught myself. I did a lot of research, a lot of practicing, had focus groups at our house, and just started it out of my house doing cottage bakery, and then slowly grew into the food truck. And it wasn't always vegan. It was all regular stuff. And I got asked a lot about vegan products. And so I started researching and practicing doing vegan baking, and slowly changed over my entire business, my entire menu to completely vegan, and didn't announce it. And nobody noticed the change.
Wow.
It just tasted the same, so that's the goal.
Yeah, I think you are hands down the best vegan baker I've ever had. I normally not a fan, no offense of vegan people, of vegan tasting things.
I usually stay away from it.
Of vegan people?
for vegans. Whatever the
terrible people.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate it. I wish I could do it. You know, climate change is a real problem. If we all went vegan, we could real fight it. I just can't do it. But I love your stuff. I think it's delicious.
You.
And I've never, like Kate, I think I knew, but Kate's like, you know that's vegan, right?
I definitely didn't know.
The goal is for it to be vegan, but not taste vegan.
I think you accomplished that tenfold.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It really is very good.
It's crazy how well received it's been over the past few years.
I have never been, and there not been a line. You always got a crowd. You sell out all the time.
I do.
Much to my wife's dismay. For example, today.
That's why I just baked her some fresh pumpkin cookies.
She's much appreciative of that. You're probably going to
for
get
you
one
too.
later.
There's plenty. They're huge.
No, that's fine.
Oh, well, very cool. We're not. I mean, listen. If you want to sponsor this podcast, you're more than welcome to. But we're not here to talk about the donut truck today. We are here to talk about Miss Taylor Swift.
Yes.
The queen of pop.
Okay,
of
guys.
everything.
Obviously, should just step out and just let you two do this.
I mean,
Get out of here.
it probably could work.
Yeah.
So I want to jump right into it because I'm curious, and we'll get into some other stuff later. But what is your favorite album?
Oh, that's so hard.
It is.
I knew you were going to ask me this, and I
okay.
wasn't.
I have to
prepared
answer.
You wrote
with an
that in your
answer.
notebook.
I have to.
I wrote out all the album names, and I was like, "What's my okay? Let me just rank this."
Yeah,
and
go
I
for
could
it.
not do it.
You couldn't rank them at all?
I can't
No,
rank
you can't do
them,
that.
and it changes. I might think Rep is my favorite album today, but tomorrow I'm going to be like, "Oh, it's Debut, 100%." But I feel like it might be Speak Now.
Okay.
I
don't
just
even
love
know
it
what that
because
is.
she wrote it all by herself,
Mm.
without any help, and there's a lot of classics on there. It's
There is.
amazing.
There's a lot of classics. Christian, do you have a favorite Taylor Swift album?
Oh, listen here,
Can
guys.
you name a Taylor Swift album?
1989. It's the year I was born.
Okay.
Oh,
That's it. That's the only one. Yeah, you guys really put me on the spot here.
Sorry.
I like Taylor Swift. I have no problems with Taylor Swift. I just not. Okay, how much of music you listen to? What percentage would be Taylor Swift?
oh man, 99%.
Holy cow!
I
Wow.
literally will just play her catalog over and over whenever I'm
Wow.
baking overnight. That's all I listen to is Taylor Swift. I will say Reputation is my hype album.
Yeah. Yep.
Working overnight, it gets me pumped. Like I am
Mhm.
dancing while rolling dough, while cutting, while
Mhm.
glazing, because it's in the middle of the night.
So I have to ask. So is Taylor Swift an integral part of your business now? If that's how you get through these evenings and
Wow.
I
That's
don't
good
think
to
there's a
know.
donut that
Hasn't-
hasn't heard a Taylor Swift song.
oh wow,
That's cool.
It's pretty much,
if donuts had ears.
I know,
That's
if they had
great.
ears.
That's our quote card.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite song? You don't have a favorite album, so
Oh,
a song must be
I
hard.
know.
You gonna
it's
ask
so-
me? I mean,
Well, what's your favorite
passed
album?
What's
around
your
the
favorite
room.
album?
So I would say it probably goes between 1989 and Reputation because I wasn't introduced much to Taylor Swift before that.
Mm-hmm.
I was whatever made it on mainstream radio. I heard.
Yeah.
Then started dating Chelsea and was made to listen to a lot of it on our road trips.
Yeah.
And generally enjoyed it, but it leaned too country
Mhm.
for me, and so I just didn't give it much of a chance until '89 when it was like full pop. That's what she's going for, and I was like, "Holy cow, this is cool.
So
this is
good.
good." So I really enjoyed it. Then started sort of doing a deep dive, listening to her, like really listening to her other stuff. But because that pop side of it is what I was really into.
So,
Yeah.
if for people not listening on the podcast, Regan, huge pop fan, can't stand country music.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So I know he just kind of explained where he fell on this. Do you have a divide between country Taylor or pop Taylor, or do you just like?
I love
both?
them both. And Country Taylor was whenever I was in a country phase, like 2006.
You lived in Milton.
Yeah.
I lived in Pensacola.
Oh, okay.
I moved to the big city, but I was in college whenever her first album came out, and I was deep into a country phase.
Yeah.
And I burned CDs,
The good old days.
my country mixes, and Taylor's songs were always
Well,
on
yeah.
there for
That's
sure.
awesome.
So I really loved her country.
Yeah.
And then whenever 1989 came out, it was mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, and I go back. She's not the kind of country that I don't like. If that makes sense.
You don't
Yeah.
like twangy country.
Twangy, old school '90s. Like I just don't.
Oh, I love that
I can
too.
pick it
Yeah,
apart like
90s
crazy.
country is great.
I can pick it apart, but typically speaking, I will enjoy a female voice on country more often, and her stuff always kind of towed the line a little bit more in that pop realm. Very country, but you could tell she always really wanted to do a pop album.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I think you got to look at the time period that Taylor Swift kind of came onto the scene, which now country music is just pop music. I mean,
Mhm.
it really, like, you listen to that Hunter Hayes Applebee's song. That's a pop. That's
I
a
don't
pop
even
track.
know what that
You
is.
guys know what I'm talking about? Fancy like Applebee's? Come on now.
What?
I've heard it.
That's a pop song.
Yeah.
But in, I would say, the mid 2000s, around the time that we really started getting Taylor Swift growing in popularity, that is when the transition really started to move. That country
Mhm.
music and pop music were really in a kind of more of an alignment.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it was a hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the transition for her over to pop music, I know it was a big deal at the time, but really makes perfect,
No,
total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think Reputation, I really enjoy it. And like I've listened to that one probably the most because it is like that hype album.
I think I listened to it the most.
Yeah. And I had started a new job where I was like processing. So I was on the computer all the time, like very zoned in on what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my in the zone kind of album. And I'd listen to it every day for like probably 6 months.
I don't think I've ever listened to an album every day for 6 months.
But I don't know that it's my favorite. Like if I go back and listen to it now, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why.
There are no skips on Reputation.
No, there's not. Well, except for that one about Kanye. But I skip that one every time. I can't stand it.
Love it all.
Can't stand it. But other than that, yeah. Anyway, I listen to it a lot. And sometimes I like that one more. But generally, if I were to like just take a week or a month off from Taylor and then play them both, I'm probably going to lean towards 89.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out my favorite defining like characteristic of an album is when you could say there are no skips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that is how you know something is good, when all 10 or 12 tracks you're like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and there are very few albums check that box. Maybe
You're
all
right.
of Taylor Swift albums for you, but
I'm trying to think if there's anything I skipped. I feel like there might be a song on Red that I've skipped.
Man, Red, that's throwing it back.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one too.
It's iconic. And she's doing Taylor's version coming out in November, re-recording all of her albums.
It's going to sound just like the other one.
It's
But she'll
gonna
own it.
be-
But she'll own it.
she'll own it.
Yeah. So, what is it about Taylor Swift, do you think, that it's just has this appeal for you?
I honestly have never been able to pinpoint it, but there's something about her music that whenever I listen to it, it literally brings up all of my emotions. She must hit all my trigger points or something, because I almost cry every time I listen to her music. It just hits me deep in my soul.
It's awesome.
I love it.
Regan, how about you?
What was
had
the
to
question?
If you had to define what it is about Taylor Swift that's the attraction for you, what would it be?
I mean, her lyrics just
Yeah.
hit.
That's a great question, honestly.
Thank you. It's almost like I've been doing podcasts for years.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's I don't know. I would say lyrics, but if you look at not 89 and Reputation, like lyrics are not the strong point of a lot of those songs, compared to some of her other albums where like there's just those one-liners that are like, holy cow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's music. Like she very successfully, like she's very talented. She writes a lot of her own stuff, and so it seems to land in this very fun zone, but also like deep and make you think. And there's emotion behind it.
I feel like you can feel how passionate she is about her work.
Yeah, and
through her music.
Each album has a theme,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, and so there's just so much thought that goes into what she does. And love it or hate it, like even when you talk about like the hidden messages, and when she's promoting, and it's like, oh, what's the album number here? Oh, that's a message. Like everything is so detailed and crafted, and I think you don't get that with a lot of artists, especially pop artists. Like,
she is the biggest overachiever in the best way possible.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not waiting till midnight or whenever for the release to get the next message, and I'm not doing all that. Like that's just not me. But and I don't love it that much, but I appreciate that she puts that much into her work, and she just goes into this zone, and it comes out. Like you can hear it. And again, we talk about like there being no skips on an album. That's because she puts so much into each song, and each song where it's placed and why it's there, why it's on the album is so intentional. And so it's just so fluid and connects. I think about 1989, like each song moves into the next song so smooth, to where it just makes you want to keep listening. If you stop paying attention, you don't really realize you're transitioning from one to the next.
Yeah, you're missing a chapter in the book.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Do you think these are the themes or the traits that have given her such the appeal that she has? I mean, it's just she's got to be top 5 artist in the world. I mean,
yeah.
Is this kind of dedication to the craft? Is that what makes her the superstar that she is?
I think so. And I feel like like with the Reputation tour, it was a stadium tour, but it felt very intimate at the same time. Like, I don't know how someone that massive, that huge can make everything feel so personal to you. You feel like she's connecting to you, talking to you, singing to you, like you're partying with her. She just makes it very personal.
How many times have you seen Taylor Swift live?
I've only seen her live 4 times.
Only 4.
Only 4.
But I saw her at the 1989 tour. That was my first time seeing her live.
Where'd you see her?
Nashville. It was a total surprise.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Let's talk about that. What?
Best day of my life.
You didn't know you were going to see Taylor
how'd
Swift?
that come together?
It was my 30th birthday, and my husband surprised me with VIP tickets to her Nashville show, which I also didn't put it together that the Nashville show is probably her biggest one because that's her hometown show. And so he told me a couple days before so I could plan my outfit, of course. But we went up there, and it was just amazing. Like, the day went great. Going out to eat beforehand. We got to go inside the arena before everyone else because we got the VIP situation going on. And we were waiting to go into this pre-party inside the arena. And while we were waiting in line, just hanging out, we could hear her sound checking. So, of course, I lost my freaking mind whenever that was happening. And she's also been known to have surprise guests at her shows. And that show, Mick Jagger was her surprise guest of the Rolling Stones. And she was sound checking with him before, and I heard that and just lost it. And then we also, while we were waiting in line to go to the pre-party, one of her tour managers came up to me, and she told me happy birthday and put a bracelet on my wrist while she was talking to me, and I was shaking and just like, what is happening? And she just said happy birthday and gave me pit passes to go like up at the stage during the show. And then during the pre-party, they did a raffle drawing, and I won this raffle drawing, and everyone there sung happy birthday to me. And we went to the front for the whole concert, and it was just magical from beginning to end. I feel like I kind of blacked out, but didn't. It was just so amazing. And to see Mick Jagger perform, he did Satisfaction and was like rooster dancing and pointing his fingers and all that stuff. It was so good. It was so good. It was the best day ever.
It's weird, too, that some of the things that, you know, we've kind of waited our whole lives for, or we're so incredibly excited for, these surreal moments. It's weird how much of it you forget when you're not in it anymore. Like you're so in the moment at the time.
Yes.
That when you're out of it, you're like, I don't even know that I really remember everything that happened. Like it's such a, I don't know.
It was a whirlwind for sure.
Yeah.
What was it like standing in the pit and that moment when Taylor comes out and starts.
Or for the folks at home, she physically shook.
She did.
I did. It was so good. It was so good.
Paint that picture. Take us back to that moment. You're standing there. She comes out. Welcome to New York plays. Like, what is that like?
I just lost my mind and was screaming and jumping and dancing. And I just had a smile on my face the entire time. It was unreal. It still doesn't feel real to me that she was like this close to me. But it was so good.
And of the other 3 times that you've seen her, what were those experiences like?
I went to the Reputation tour 3 times.
All on one tour. That's groupie status right there.
I
3
did.
times on one tour?
I would have gone more if I could have, but it's very expensive. But I went to the Atlanta show. I went to the Tampa show by myself. And I went to the New Orleans show.
Regan, that's when you saw her, right? Didn't you see...
Not Reputation.
You saw 19... How was your experience? Where did you see her?
So we were in Tampa, and it was fun. We dressed up like different characters from Alice in Wonderland. So I don't remember. I think I was the Rabbit, the White Rabbit.
That sounds right. I've seen photographs
Yeah,
of this.
I'm like thinking back to that. Chelsea was the Cheshire Cat, I believe. But it was really fun. It was pre-kids. And so that was kind of like our big trip. And again, I was still like new to the Swift fandom, if you will. Like I'm not a Swiftie. I'm not going to put myself in that box, but I definitely was like very new at that point. And I will say, like, from concerts I've been to, it was like you mentioned, being so intimate. Like, you're the only one there, and we were way up high. We weren't in the pit. We weren't on the ground. We were pretty up high, and but you felt like everything she's doing, she's talking to you, she's connecting to you, the fan that's way out there. And again, every moment was so seamlessly transitioned into the next. Everything she did had purpose and energy and excitement. It was just really cool. And again, to see how her fans were just so taken in was a really cool experience. She's an amazing performer.
She is.
She puts on amazing shows, and the people she hires to do a lot of the costumes and the lights and the production, like, it's a very involved, it's everything you want in a concert when you get that full experience.
Yeah.
I could certainly talk about some concerts I went to that I thought I was going to get that and did not. That were kind of a letdown. But she fulfilled that 100%.
She's definitely never let me down on the live performance, any category. But that was also my first time interacting with other Swifties. And it was a lot. I loved it. They're so nice and welcoming. And I've been to so many other concerts where people are just shoving and clawing, trying to get their way to the front, or just don't even interact with other fans. But all the Swifties there were like, "Who are you? Where are you from? Oh my gosh, happy birthday. Are you okay? Do you need some room? Can you see?"
Oh, wow.
Like,
awesome.
It was, I didn't know how to handle that, but I love it.
So I would follow up to that. I am curious, because I am outside of the Swiftie fandom. What is that space like? Is there like internet communities where people, like forums, they just talk about Taylor Swift all the time? And
yeah, all over the place. Before the Reputation tour, I had a group chat with other people that were going to the same shows that I was going to. So we would talk about everything just that we were excited about. And there's people on Instagram that I've connected with, mostly Instagram and Twitter, I would say. I tried to do Tumblr because she was active on there, but I just didn't.
Tumblr can be a dark space.
Yeah, Tumblr's.
I think that's dated now. She's moved on to TikTok, and I don't know how to use that either.
Whatever.
I tried to use TikTok for this podcast, and I can't figure it out for the life of me.
No. And I'll say, and this has been done since, but one thing that I thought was really cool about the 89 tour that I had never seen anywhere else, and I don't like frequently go to like tons of concerts, but everybody got a wristband, and it changed colors, and there was like a couple of songs, I think there was a couple songs where the light set, the lighting,
it's all synced to your bracelet.
To the bracelet.
Whoa.
And so like the whole stadium was like lights were changing up and down and around and all these different things because people were holding
that sounds
their
expensive.
Wristbands. Yeah,
she did that for Reputation as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
She said that's her way, that even if you're in the nosebleed section, she wants to be able to see each and every one of her fans, and that's why she gives them all the light up bracelets.
Really cool. It's really cool. And they have other shows have utilized stuff like that too. But
I think she started that trend.
Probably.
Let's go ahead and just say she did.
Say she did.
Okay, all right. Taylor Swift, inventor of that wristband technology.
You've been to 4 concerts. Take us back to the moment when you first discovered Taylor Swift.
Can you remember the date and time?
Can you describe, what was that?
It was a cool fall evening in September 2006. No, I don't know the exact day that I did, but I just know that phase of my life back in 2006, 2007, college, my formidable years. I feel like I went through a lot during that time, my first big heartbreaks, and it was her first album that really hit me. and got me through a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff. Yeah. I can't remember the exact time.
Well,
just
that's
more
okay.
of a phase.
It's kind of impossible question. We've had one person be able to we did a Kendrick Lamar episode.
Yeah.
And he knew exactly date, time, location when the first time he heard Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But, well, and I would say that's probably...
Did you have teardrops on your guitar? Was that the problem at the time?
Yeah. I was crying a lot.
Yeah. Well, and that's,
listening to her.
I will say I think that's where most people really deeply connect, right? And then have just kind of stuck with her all these years.
Yeah. Like she got me through a major heartbreak.
Yeah.
And I would listen to her music and just cry or get angry or just try to get over somebody. But no matter what, she was kind of always there.
Well, and she, going back to kind of what makes the magic of Taylor Swift, like she had a way of capturing those emotions that all teenage, 15, 14 to early 20s were going through, right? I mean, that's a time where there's relationships and breakups and just very strong emotions that we're experiencing. And she connected with that, and she wrote from her heart.
Well, she was writing music during that time in her own life.
Exactly, exactly. And so she was able to communicate it very lyrically and musically as well. And I think that connected with so many people. And she continues to do that at different stages in her life. You can tell. So, like, I'm going to critique it a little for a second. Reputation is not the best lyrically in a lot of places because it is more of that. And you probably have Max Martin to thank for it. And that's why I love that album, is because Max Martin did so much of that album with her. And Chelsea critiques it because, by the time that album came out, we were married, sort of like a different stage of life. And it seemed like she was still sort of stuck in a more in a stage of life that she should seem to have been past as well. If you think about age, she wasn't in her early 20s partying and hanging out and, all these reckless things that she was.
That's so much of what pop music is. And you talk about Max Martin influence there, that guy is pop music.
Exactly.
So. Yeah.
And lyrically, she was at a very, she's getting out a lot of emotions and
I think that was
emotions.
A big outlet for her.
Exactly. But
a transition into growing up, almost.
But it seemed almost a little too late. And so that's Chelsea. Chelsea could not connect to that album. Like, she had so many of her other albums in the past because we had kind of moved on past going through those things, and Taylor seemed to be writing.
Also,
in
you
that
guys
space.
got married young. I mean, you matured a little faster than other people do.
Sure. But anyway, I love it not because of the lyrics. I love it because of the beat and the bass line just hangs through that entire album and just drives.
So what you guys,
anyway,
I'm going to summarize what I think you're saying here, and you guys could tell me I'm wrong. So what you're saying is a lot of people who fall in love with Taylor Swift discover things that they relate to at a certain time in their life, and then they just stay because then it's almost like you grow up with it to an extent. Like Harry Potter. You read that first one when you're 11, you read the last one when you're 17. Same thing with Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why I missed some of her earlier stuff, because I was definitely going, look, I was a soft, emotional guy.
Was is a strong word there, Regan.
I probably could have connected to some of her stuff if I listened to it, if I gave it a shot back then. But, I just didn't. But I definitely was. If I had a guitar, there would have been teardrops.
There would have been teardrops on that.
For sure.
So, look, you guys brought up the breakup relationship words. So I'm going to ask the question.
Oh, man.
Because I'm outside of it. I don't know. I just know a lot of people relate Taylor Swift's music to breakup music. Are her songs based on ex-boyfriends? Is that just a rumor? Is that true?
I mean, some are, yeah.
Okay. So,
some are just her storytelling. Some, I feel like it's pieces of what she's going through in her
so there's a
personal
John
life.
Mayer song out there somewhere.
For sure.
Yeah. I've probably written a song about John Mayer,
it's
to be
called
fair.
Dear John.
Yeah. And that's a great question. I think that's why, another reason why I don't connect with...
You don't have a lot of ex-boyfriends?
No. Yeah. Evermore and what's the other one?
Folklore.
Because aren't those like the first two where she says she didn't...
Yeah, it was mainly
It was total
her
storytelling. And she's not connecting it to anything personal, which I don't know if I fully believe, but...
I think some of it was bits and pieces of her, but it was...
Mostly stories.
Her going into her imagination more
Right. And that just
and creating.
I just didn't connect. I didn't feel like she was connected, if I'm being honest.
Well, I do think it's hard to
disagree.
It's you guys can have a debate here in a second.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna do that.
But I will say, I think it's hard to create outside of your emotions. I think whatever you are feeling absolutely influences what you're going to express creatively.
And if you're trying so hard to disconnect from your own,
there's a lack of authenticity there. But I'm not saying Taylor has that. I'm just saying
you said it.
As a creator, not that anyone will ever see anything I ever created besides this podcast. So one thing we do like to talk about is the thing about our fandoms or the things that we love. Typically, they help us get through, some tough times. And you've talked about, a breakup, and you've talked about how Taylor Swift has helped you even, in the wee hours, making donuts and stuff like that. Like, what is it? And maybe you can give us an example of how Taylor has gotten you through those times. Like, what is it about the music that connects, and what keeps you coming back? Is there a specific
time that comes to mind?
For like a tough time in my life?
Sure. Even just something emotional that you connected to.
I will say all this stuff with my dad has been through a lot health-wise. Her music has definitely helped me just kind of get out of my mind, get out of that mindset. And I lost my grandmother a few years ago, and some specific songs of hers really struck a chord in me. And I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but whenever my grandmother passed away, I wrote a letter to her, and I actually put it with her, like over her heart. And the last thing I ever said to her in the letter was a lyric from a Taylor Swift song.
That's
it really meant a lot to me. But
yeah, I think we talk a lot about how these things that we love offer escape in tough times, but I think there's also something to be said that we can find peace or solace through the things that we love. And not that the escape is a bad thing. Escape is good. I think we all need some escapism in real life. But if I love it deeply, then I should also hope that I find some peace or solace in there as well. Like we've done Lord of the Rings, and I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but there's a scene in Lord of the Rings where Frodo says he wished the ring had never come to him, and Gandalf says, so do all people who are in these times. But it's our choice to do with it. We don't get to choose that. We get to choose what we do with it.
Yeah.
And like that has brought me so much peace in trying times. And I just think if you're gonna love something, you should get something in return out of it.
I feel like she's brought me a lot of peace through things, and she also helps me she brings up a lot of memories. So things I don't want to forget. I also have this fear that I'm going to forget all the good times in my life. So she kind of helps me like hold on to that.
Well,
I think music can do that just in general. Music is a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
Along those same lines, can you, and this is totally on the spot, we didn't prep you for this one. Can you think of a moment where, like, because I know for me, music is so deeply connected to a specific time. Whatever time I was listening to it, whether it's on the bus every day on the way to school for a year, and then that album sort of like gets set to the side and I don't pick it up for a decade, and then I start listening to it, and then it just rips me back to that moment, right? Since you've listened to Taylor pretty much on repeat this whole time, are there maybe an album or songs that are connected to something? And can you think of a moment like that you could describe that it takes you back to?
Going back to the breakups, I would say specifically her debut album, the Teardrops on My Guitar. That's just like I just want to be in my emotions whenever I'm listening to it. But I've had moments of sitting on my kitchen floor after just going through a breakup and just letting it all out and listening to that song. But I don't really listen to that album too much because it kind of does bring up those memories for me. But it's also healing at the same time.
Mm.
Well, it's familiar. And I
Yeah.
think to that point, I mean, I've listened to Backstreet Boys on repeat basically my whole life. But I could play an album.
Huge
I did not see that coming.
Huge Backstreet Boys fan.
That was a curveball.
You didn't see that coming? All right. But there are albums that are so deeply connected that it takes me back there emotionally, which is not always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it offers that sense of peace because it's that familiarity with where I was at that time, who I was at that time, and just sort of taking me out of where I am right now, if that makes sense. And sometimes those things that we used to escape may not take us back to a particularly happy time, but it's something we know how to deal with because we've dealt with it. And so we can just go back to that instead of what we're currently dealing with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's songs of hers that when I listened to at the time, whenever they came out, were during rough times or things I was going through. But whenever I listen to them now, I kind of have a new take on it, new respect for it. And I kind of acknowledge the stuff that I went through, but then I move on and I'm like, look how far I've come.
That's a great point too. And to talk about Backstreet Boys for a second, I try to preserve them to the connection, whatever it is. But occasionally something will happen where I've listened to it a lot and it's almost like it's imprinted on something else. And so this past summer, I think is right. Well, really every summer. So we put my daughter in infant swim and rescue, and I was the one responsible for picking her up and taking her down there. And when I would do that, there was the first year there was a new Backstreet Boys album out, which was like first in a long time. So we were listening to that. She was a baby, like couldn't really talk. She's in the car seat. And so I'm like connecting that album to that experience. The next year, or maybe 2 years later, somehow she got on a Backstreet Boys kick. And she was like, I want to listen to Backstreet Boys, Daddy. And I was like, of course, let's do it. Like whatever. But every single day for like 6 or 8 weeks, I'd pick her up. We'd get in the car. We'd start the album. And I think it was the first one, Backstreet Boys. And so now a lot of those songs are actually connected to driving in the car, singing and hanging out with her on the way to swim.
Aww.
Which is the first, like before that, it would jump me back to 1997, like in the backseat of my car with my headphones on and my CD player in my hand, driving wherever we would go with family or hanging out at a friend's house. So anyway.
It's cool to see the growth that you have from when you first heard it to when listening to it now.
Yeah. Well, and again, I did not know when we started that on the way to swim that was going to happen. But then after weeks and weeks and weeks, like now, it's connected to those experiences.
Sometimes I listen to music specifically to go back to those emotions and relive that moment. And not because it's like I am anxious for my youth again or anything like that, but there's almost a healing, therapeutic part of it. Like it's totally left field from Backstreet Boys or Taylor Swift, but Nice to Know You by Incubus. The whole album.
Love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song. The whole Morning View album, I think, is no skips. But
Hashtag no skips.
Hashtag no skips. But specifically Nice to Know You really reminds me of being like 16, 17 years old, out way later than I needed to be, in my car, listening to rock music, probably making bad choices. And so for me, when I listen to that song now, it's not that there's like a guilt, but it's almost like a recognition of I was a child.
Yeah.
And I'm not that anymore. And while I haven't reclaimed that song as an adult in any new way, when I almost enjoy making that recognition. Like, oh, this feels like those times, but I'm not that
You're
person.
reminiscing through the music.
Sort of.
Right.
I definitely think there's that, and then I think there's
Not in like I wish I was still there. Just you're acknowledging it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I think the acknowledgement is important. Yeah. There's some of that I probably will never listen to again because of that, but that song specifically, I don't know why, but I really relate to it in that regard. So we always end the same way. We ask 2 questions of everybody.
Okay.
And I feel like the first one's going to be real hard for you to answer.
Why?
So the first one is, what critique do you have for either Taylor Swift or Swifties in general, or both?
Okay. Let me come back to Taylor. But I will say with the fandom, I think this goes for a lot of big fans of anything, that they can be fiercely protective of whoever or whatever they're a fan of and defend it to the grave. I will say sometimes the fans can be really aggressive on the internet, like anybody can, but they do not represent or speak for all of us. That's for sure. They just kind of, if one person says a critique of Taylor Swift, they just go in on them. But yeah, I think that would be my only critique. They just need to calm down.
Yeah, it's really common. I almost feel like we should phase those two questions out, because this is always the answer, which is that fandom has an ownership problem.
Yes. That's a good word for it.
We think we own whatever it is we like. But guess what, guys? We didn't make it. Other people made it, and they made what we like, so let's let them keep making it.
Yeah.
And the fact that we like it means other people will like it too, so let's not be afraid that other people like it as well.
Yeah, and when people say, like, oh, you're getting on the bandwagon or things like that, I'm like, the more the merrier. It's fine. Anyone can enjoy whatever they want to enjoy. Don't put people down for being a Swiftie or whatever.
There's so much from her now, and it's different.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
Too. So you don't have to like all of it.
It's okay that I don't like much pre-1989, because there's quite a bit after that now.
And some people might just really be into Folklore or Nevermore whenever that came out.
Yeah, I don't hate people for liking those albums. I don't. But that's
like whatever you want to like. Live your life.
Live your life. She's got faithful fans that love that stuff, so okay. She doesn't write music for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just happen to listen to some of her stuff.
She writes it for me. No, I'm just kidding.
I definitely can say she doesn't write music for me. But, my daughter sings it.
I feel like now she writes the music for herself. I feel like a lot of her career, she maybe was thinking, okay, like, I have to write this for my fans. Like, how are they going to perceive it?
Well,
how is this going to, translate to stage or whatever? But I feel like now she's more so doing whatever she wants to do, and that's important.
That is important. And she's financially to a point where she can do whatever she wants no matter what. And I don't mean that in that, like, so you could critique and say that her fans are going to just gobble it up just because her name's on it. But I also think that, she's writing for her. She's doing for herself now. She really is. And
well, certainly there's a liberty that comes with it, especially in the music industry, which I know, as a musician who has recorded albums, who has toured, let me tell you, you fight for pennies as a person who makes it. And to really make any money, what people want to hear is definitely at the center of your conversation every day. So if you can get to a point where you can go back and just do what you want to do, absolutely take it and do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And good on her if that is where she's at.
Well, and so few, because she's the queen of pop, she can do that now.
Yeah.
Like, so few artists that I observe can, I think, I don't know, I'm not in the industry, but it seems like they are trapped to that. I've got to sell albums, and in order to do that, I must give in to XYZ. And there's the producers and the writers and the business people who absolutely know what that answer is. And then there's but this is what I want to do, and so let's put some of me into this. And then they don't get to that point where they're super stardom like Taylor is, where she could stop if she wanted to. Right now, she could stop. And
for
not
sure.
make any more albums. Retire.
Well, I don't think she wants to do that.
But she doesn't want to. But now there's that freedom to say, well, if nobody buys this, I don't care. I don't need them to. I'm just going to make it for me and enjoy it. And I think there's a receiving end of that where fans do like that. Fans want you to be you. And I think that says a lot about not everyone's going to love you or love what you put out, but somebody will. And so make it, let them appreciate it. And so, she's to a point where she can get away with that.
Yeah. And she still is aware of the fact that people want to hear the classics and whatnot. So she does always trickle those in her live shows.
And now she's doing them all.
Well, for a different reason. The reason why she's doing it is a good reason.
I know.
You seem so negative of it because you hate that style of music. But
no, that's not it.
Okay. The last question is, what does the future hold? What is the next 5 to 10 years of Taylor Swift or for Swifties?
All I want to do is see Taylor Swift live so bad. I cannot wait for her to come back out on tour. My sister and I actually had tickets to go to the Lover Tour in California in 2020, and it got canceled, obviously. And so I'm just waiting for the day when she announces a tour.
In October of 2019, I bought tickets for a Jason Isbell show in Mobile, Alabama for March of 2020. Obviously, it got canceled. Got pushed out to I don't remember, December of 2020. And then I never canceled. The show was never canceled. I still have my tickets. And so it was rescheduled for July of 2021, July 7th or something. And I was so excited. I love Jason Isbell. And turns out it got canceled again because he got cast in a movie, a Martin Scorsese movie. So he pushed it out. He's not in it. It's announced for October 11th. 2021, 2 years, almost 2 years to the day since I bought the tickets. The day it was announced that it was October 11th, I was asked to be in a guy's wedding and the bachelor party weekend, October 11th.
Oh man.
Oh, that is my fear that she will announce a tour or I will already have my tickets and then some important life event's going to happen and I will feel so torn.
Yeah.
So I want to start a hashtag. I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Probably not.
But we can try.
Okay, what's your hashtag?
We'll figure it out in a second. What is your dream? Your future dream? You told us about it. Maybe you forgot.
Oh, where I want to meet Taylor Swift?
And do what?
I would love to go to get invited to her secret session, and we hit it off. We become friends. And I want to teach her how to make donuts. I would love to have an evening with Taylor Swift, baking, drinking wine, maybe make margaritas, who knows, and just bake and have a jolly good time.
And then you can tell her how she inspires every single donut. Not a single donut has been made.
That hasn't heard of
Taylor Swift song.
All my donuts listen to her music.
So maybe should we throw this out to the listeners to create a hashtag?
We don't have one.
I don't have
one.
I want to do it.
I thought you had thought something creative.
And then get it going.
What is your hashtag?
I don't know, but get it going and hopefully to where it goes viral and then your dream comes true. We're going to try to make your dream come
let's
true.
will it.
I want that dream to come true for you, but the task of coming up with a good hashtag for it does seem daunting. I'm running through them in my head.
Let's pass it to the listeners and so if you're listening, join our free Facebook group, Fantastic People Pod Hangout, and then there will be a thread. Put in the thread your suggestion for the hashtag that we will use to get Sam noticed by Taylor,
invited to the sesh
to go make donuts.
I have never got a Taylor Swift notice.
Maybe that could be the name of the donut. Whatever the hashtag, we can figure this out together.
Okay.
But you'll name the donut that you guys will make together.
Oh, yes.
And it'll be her donut.
Her special Taylor donut.
You've done menus.
I've done full-on Taylor Swift menus in my truck. I mean, every time she has an album drop or anything, I usually do an album release menu, and everything is based on songs, music videos, her in general. Yeah, I draw a lot of inspiration creatively from her.
So this is for all the listeners. When I came up with the idea of this podcast, and I was running through guest ideas, I knew this about you. And so I was
How did you know?
Well, I follow the truck, and I can see when there's Taylor Swift things, but also Sam and my wife like to text. And so I was like, listen, we got to get Sam on the podcast because this Taylor Swift thing is serious. I can tell. Everyone knows her as the donut lady, but she likes Taylor Swift a whole lot. So
way more than donuts.
This is my hashtag dream come true now, having you on here as a perfect example of what fantastic people should be.
This is such an honor.
That's
I
cool.
love this.
Good.
So speaking of the Doughnuts, where can people find you and when? Where can they follow the truck? The whole deal.
You can follow us on Instagram at Hello Ladough, and we do a pop-up every Saturday. Call it Donuts in the Park in East Hill. We usually park at 12th and Gonzalez, and we open at 9 o'clock until we sell out. And during the week, you can message me if you ever want to do special orders, catering, whatever your donut needs are. I'm your girl.
Thank you for listening to Fantastic People. Please rate and subscribe wherever you find your podcast. To continue today's discussion, join the free Facebook group, which is Fantastic People Podcast Hangout, and follow us on social media. That's at fantastic_peoplepod on Instagram and at fantasticpeople, no E, on Twitter. We'd like to say thank you to Alex Edmondson for our artwork and Brian Velasquez for our music.